Chapter 3. The Self, Your True Parent. Before I tell you about the self, some information about evolution is appropriate here. According to the esoteric tradition, there are 3 lines of evolution: physical, mental, and spiritual. It is interesting to know that the word evolution has the meaning of flowing out of, and unfolding of substance and quality. So, physical evolution is about the development of suitable vehicles for manifestation, mental evolution is about the development of the mind, the mental faculties, and the brain, spiritual evolution is about the development of spiritual faculties such as direct knowledge of something and opening up for inspiration. Scientists have limited themselves to study of physical form and of a limited range of cognitive functions. Most of what is essential to the human being has been ignored as being subjective stuff that can't be measured or is just some function of the brain. That is extreme reductionism 1, which is one factor that has led to the deplorable state humanity currently finds itself in. Some psychologists have gone further, like Abraham Maslow, who later in his work has added self-transcendence to his hierarchy of values, and Roberto Assagioli with his formulation of psychosynthesis and active will. I have included a piece on the latter in a separate chapter. The luminous self. What is the self? How does it look? What is its form? Many questions can be asked about this mysterious being, that is on the one hand the parent of each of us, and seems so distant from us. The ancient teachings reveal some bit of the secrecy surrounding the self. To begin with, each human being is the projection or outflow of energies from his or her own higher self. These selves are interconnected on their own planes of existence. The self has no gender per se, although some might say that it manifested itself to their psychic eye as a man or woman or child. Many testimonies exist as to encounters with the self, especially with a bright inner light that brings joy, peace, and clarity of mind. Many people have at least once in their life some uplifting experience concerning the spiritual. The psychiatrist Richard Bucke has devoted a whole volume to that, discussing cosmic consciousness. See below. In Appendix A, I discuss the human being and its constitution further. The model you will find there may contribute a great deal to your understanding of the connection of all life, embedded as it all is in one ocean of life, energy, consciousness, and substance. More details about the process of manifestation of the self in the form of personality can be found in Appendix A. These are almost forgotten teachings of the past. Yet, many people state that they have had at least once in their life some experience of the spirit working in their mind. Is the self distant from the personality? Yes and no. One has to realize that the self operates in different spheres than the personality. Yet, one can contact the self when brooding on matters of importance, like vital decisions. When people have serious doubts about some decisions they have to make, and direct their mind towards the spirit within, a certain resonance with the self may or will result, which will transmit the answer, no. When in serious doubt, don't do it. Keep in mind that the human being is a stream of consciousness. A human can shift his or her consciousness to more spiritual levels as indicated in Chapter 2. Obviously, the self is deeply involved with the personality of which it is the causal factor. Yet, a person has to learn to develop its own spiritual capabilities. That simply is spiritual evolution, which will result in a transformation of the lower self. The development of virtues is paramount in this regard. Courage, concentration, compassion, integrity, and so on. Wholeness of life. A well-integrated personality capable of transcending its own small self-interests. Testimonies of encounters with the self. The Greek philosopher Socrates testified of the influence of his higher self on him, which he named his Daimon, a semi-divine being. This is not to be confused with the word demon, which indicates just the opposite. Another philosopher, Plotine, also refers to his encounters with his self, as Richard Bucke mentions in his book on cosmic consciousness. The latter has described many persons that have had an experience of the inner light. He describes the character of those that have had such a vision of this light. These were always people of high morality. Virtues matter in this case. Many names can be stated here: Gautama Buddha, Shankaracharya, Socrates, Plato, Plotine, Jesus Christ, say. Paul, Mohammed, St. John of the Cross, Jacob Boehme, Blake, Edward Carpenter, Walt Whitman, to name a few. The list is long and contains only some of the well-known people of their age. I could mention some others, but this list suffices for the purpose here. Unless one has a certain level of spiritual development, there is little chance of having such profound visions. Yet, flashes of intuition, or rather hunches, occur in the lives of many people. It all is a matter of degree. The conclusion of this chapter is this: it is possible to direct one's mind to the energy world of the spirit and strengthen the bond with it. In Chapter 2, I have indicated how this can be done. A simple technique goes a whole way. Yet, perseverance is needed and the development of clear goals and a sense of purpose. In this connection, in the next chapter, the interaction of self and society is further elaborated. Some universal principles of concern to humans. Many people seem to doubt the value of developing virtues, thinking that we live in an unfair world. Granted that the financial and economic system we live in is terribly flawed, these people are yet misguided as to the need for developing some measure of virtue in themselves. The reason for this will become clear in the next sections. Ethical principles, grounded in the fabric of nature. In Chapter 2, I briefly mentioned the matrix as a field on which impressions are etched or recorded. This matrix is well known in esoteric circles. It goes by the name astral light. It has many functions, but here I am concerned with its recording properties. Since our intentions and especially actions leave an imprint on the substance of this field, one at once can begin to understand the injunctions of religions and spiritual philosophies. The golden rule: do not unto others as you do not want to be done unto you. Often it is stated as, do unto others as to yourself. Since we often don't know what is good for ourselves, let alone for others, the negative formulation above has preference in my opinion. Be it as you sow, so you shall you reap. This is a very familiar saying from the New Testament. The connection of B to A is immediately clear. In Hindu religion, one can find the idea of karma. Now, according to the esoteric tradition, karma does not simply mean fate. Instead, it refers to action and the consequences of action. Materialistic people will object that they often don't see justice done to criminals. This is a correct observation. The idea of karma, however, has to be coupled with the idea of reincarnation. Now, I want you to understand that the personality does not reincarnate. What happens after death is that the lessons learned in life and the best features of the self are stored in the self, like a page written in a notebook. There comes a time that the self will project and develop a new personality to be born on earth. This personality will be confronted with the consequences of past actions, for so far that didn't happen already in the previous manifestation of self. Nobody can escape karmic justice. Nobody. What one can do in this life is develop positive tendencies and character traits and perform acts to equilibrate some of the wrongs of the past. It is a dynamic, evolutionary process. Humans will evolve over long periods of time into beings with more wisdom and powers of mind and spirit. That is, if the human chooses so. Here we see why we must develop a clear vision on life. Virtues matter. Think this through, logically and philosophically. Note, write down, what I now understand about justice, cause and effect is this. Learn to become who you really are. At birth, a baby already has his or her own character pattern. Every mother recognizes that fact. She knows how to recognize very quickly who is who, in the case of an identical twin. In the course of, say, 20 years, the expression of this character pattern usually is constricted according to conventions and morals of the time and place the child finds itself in. Many young adults have difficulties in their development. This has been sketched in Chapter 2. They become frustrated in their development. Society is to blame for a large part in this regard. One factor is the grip that the neoliberal financial political economic system has on this world. Yet, we can make some choices to live according to our higher values. We don't have to consume so many things all day long. We can ponder about a life with less goods and more time for self-development. We can engage in volunteer work and so on. We can listen to our bodies and intuition and develop a more natural or harmonious lifestyle, in accordance with how we feel inside. In addition, the esoteric tradition states that the self has developed more qualities than the human being of which it is the originator. It teaches progressive evolution. The idea that all life strives to develop, unfold, deeper qualities from without. More information can be found in Chapter 7 and Appendix A. Unity of all life. The most profound teachings of the perennial wisdom tradition pertain to the unity consciousness that pervades all life. There is one field from which all beings originate. We are like droplets in an ocean of life. To us, limited beings, it will be incomprehensible in all its vastness. Yet, we may sometimes experience a little of this Satchidananda, being, cosmic mind, bliss, in short bursts of experiential awareness. Diversity in unity seems to be the way the field operates. Blessed is the human being that can penetrate deeply into this field.